Welcome to my classroom. This is your teacher Yves Lexis. Ok, so j'aime pour maintenant, ça c'est deuxième session verbe irrégulier pour nous capables de mettre en fin dans session ça. Ok, so let's get to it. Okay, so verbs ending in EL, they change to OLD in both past tense and past participles. For instance, we have sell, so it would be sold, sold. We have tell, it would be told, told. Now, verbs also ending in END, they change to ENT in both past tense and past participle forms. For instance, you've got lend, it would be let, send, like sending an email, sending money, would be sent. You've got spend, it would be spent. Of course, you have bend something, it would be bent. Okay, so now verbs in AY, they change to AID in both past tense and past participle. So lay, it would be laid. Pay would be paid. Say, it would be said. So that's the difference. You want to be very careful. It's not said, it's said. I said, she said, okay? But the other ones has that id sounds, okay? Id. All right? Now, one exception is with slay, for instance. It's slew and slain. For instance, a lamb that was slain. So, j'ai entendu dans la Bible, a lamb that was slain, en parlant de Christ qui était mort pour nous. Okay, now, verbs ending in HOLD change in HELD in both past tense and past participle. Of course, third person singular, they end with an S. Alright, so hold would be held. Uphold the law would be upheld. Withhold would be withheld. And then behold would be beheld and beheld. Verbs ending in OW change to EW for the past tense, but to OWN for the past participles. Interesting, isn't it? So for instance, you have throw would be threw, thrown. Grow would be grew, grown. I am grown. Blow would be blew, blown. Know would be knew, known. He's known for his talent. But here's a slight difference. Draw, which is AW, changed to EW, but to AWN. Like for instance, draw, drew, drawn. Okay, withdraw, like withdraw money from the bank or from the ATM machine would be withdraw, withdrew, withdrawn. Fly would be flew, flown. That would be OWN. Okay, so now other verbs. I'm going to list out other verbs because you just have to know those. You just don't find any patterns really for those. Eat, ate, eaten. Get, got, gotten. Wake, woke, woken. Prove, proved, proven. Forgive, forgave, forgiven. Swear, swore, sworn. Okay, to swear c'est mentir. For instance, the president will be sworn in on January 20th, 2025. Okay, tear would be tore, torn. Give, gave, given. Fall, fell, fallen. All right. More of those. You've got bite, bit, bitten. You've got hide, hid, hidden. You've got mistake, mistook, mistaken. Of course, take, took, taken. You've got shake, shook, shaken. You've got rise, rose, raisin. And you've got ride, rode, ridden. You've got steal, stole, stolen. And of course, you've got break, broke, broken. And see, saw, seen. I have seen that movie before. Okay, so I saw her yesterday. Okay, So that's important. You just gotta know those. More of those. You got write, wrote, written. You've got choose, chose, chosen. Speak would be spoke, spoken. And freeze would be froze, frozen. Light would be lit, lit. Mean, like, what do you mean? Well, it would be met. Well, what I meant to say was, so met, met. Okay, drink would be drank, drunk. Sink would be sank, sunk. Shrink, shrank, shrunk. Begin would be began and begun. Okay? More of those would be seek, sought, sought. Donc on s'en prononcer ça. Ought. Ought to be. Slide would be slade, slade. Okay, now this is the part that I mentioned to you on the irregular session number 1. These are the verbs that not only they can take the form of regular, but they can also take the form of irregular as well. So they take both forms. For instance, you've got burn, really burn would be burned, burned. That's regular. Burn, but also burnt, burnt. So that would be irregular, burnt. Okay? Shine, we saw that the last time would be shine, shined. ED, okay? Second one irregular, they all ended with ED. But the irregular, you don't find that. So it would be shown, shown for the irregular. Learn would be learned, learned. But the irregular part of it would be learned, learned. Okay? So spill would be spilled, spilled. But the irregular would be spilt, spilled. Alright, so verbs, again, verbs that have both regular and irregular forms. We have spoiled, we spoiled, spoiled. And irregular would be spoiled, spoiled. Spell would be spelled, spelled. Irregular would be spelt, spelt. Smell would be smelled, smelled. Of course, smelt, smelled would be the irregular part of it. Awake would be awaked, awaked. Okay, ed. Remember that T sound we did in the previous lessons before? So irregular part of it would be awake, awoke, awaken, awaken. Okay, so that's irregular. Dive, dived, dived, that's the regular. And of course, dive, dove, dived, that's the irregular. Ed, ed makes it regular, both past tense and past participle. But here you have dove and then you have dived. So that's definitely irregular. Okay? Faded, faded. So that's regular. But fit, so that's irregular. There's no ed here on those. That's what makes it irregular. Hang would be hanged, hanged. Okay, so that's irregular. But hung, hung. That's what makes it irregular. Kneeled, it's à genoux. Kneeled, kneeled. But knelt, knelt. That's what makes it irregular. Knit, knitted, knitted. That's what makes it regular. All ends with ed. But knit, knit, knit. That's what would make it irregular. Move on to the next slide. Okay, so you've got, again, continuous verbs with both forms. Regular and irregular. Leap, leaped, leaped. Leap, leapt, leapt, or leaped, leaped. Then the deux prononciations, so both of them seems to be correct. Lie would be lied, lied. That's the regular because it ends with ed. And then we have lie, which means which also have lay and lane. Of course, progressive forms would be lying. This is how you would write it. The pen was lying on my desk. That means somebody qui couché sur façon horizontale. Okay? Okay, now here it means on bagay qui n'ont position horizontale, right? Lie, lay, etc. But here it means mensonge. I dit on bagay qui pas vrai ou quoi parler. To lie, you're lying to me. for instance. Of course, you have light, lighted, lighted, so that would be regular because it ends with ed, of course. But late, late, so that would be irregular. So interesting. All right, so plead, pleaded, pleaded, all ed makes it regular, but pled, pled makes it irregular. Again, both forms. Okay, so now more of those. You got prove, proved, proved, regular, proved, proven. Makes it irregular. You've got show, showed, showed. Makes it regular. And of course, showed, shown. Makes it irregular. You've got sneak, sneaked, sneaked. Makes it regular. But snuck, snucked makes it irregular. Spit, spit. So that's irregular. So there are certain verbs that are like that. They take both forms irregular. And spit would be one of them. And it would be spat, spat too. Both of those are irregular. So I should have put those on the next slide, but trying to squeeze some of those words in there. Okay, so we go on that. So we got sweat, sweated, sweated. And of course, sweat, sweat, sweat. So that would be irregular. Ed, ed. Swelled, on va écrire enflé. Swelled, swelled, swelled. That would be the regular. And of course, swelled, swollen. So that would be the irregular. You have wick, wicked, wicked. So that would be the regular. Of course, woke, woken. So that would be the irregular. And you have this verb here, which kind of just like that one. Awake, okay? Awaken, awakened, and awakened. And of course, it would be awoke and awaken. Okay, so wed, wedded, wedded. So that would be regular, ed, ed. But wed, wed, wed. So that would be irregular. Okay, so you got wet. On va écrire mouillé, wedded, wedded. You got wet, wet, wet. So that would be irregular. So these would be regular. Wended, wended. So that would be the regular, and of course irregular would be wound, wound. Okay. Pas oublier que wind, W-I-N-D can be wind. This can be wind. You remember that, wind. But it can also pronounce as wind. Par exemple, le vent. Donc c'est comme ça, c'est wind. Now let's move on to verbs that have two different types of irregular forms. Okay? Spring, spring, sprung, so that's irregular, but it can also be sprung, sprung too. Spit, spit, we just saw that, it can also be spat, spat too. Stonk, stink, stonk, stonk, but it can also be stink, stonk. Both of those are correct. Strike would be struck, struck, and it can also struck and stricken. All of those are correct. I had to, I had to make sure that we cover those, and we finally have covered the irregular verbs. I think this is it for irregular verbs. Of course, you will always encounter those, as we continue to learn. Together, but at least for a full session dedicated just for irregular verbs, this is it for now. But remember, I did mention that we will be learning a lot about phrasal verbs. Again, it will be the same pattern. Phrasal verbs mean that those verbs are they're not like just one word. For instance, you have to get up, okay? To get on the bus, you get on the bus, okay? You get on the airplane. So that would be a phrasal verb. They're not like just get. It would be get up, get on, get off the bus. You see what I'm saying? So those would be the phrasal verbs that I've been referring, okay? That I've been talking about. So with that, we're gonna do a lot of those. In Americans, like I said, do use those a lot. So, ça m'a essayé de rappeler nous c'est que n'est pas toujours bon pour lorsque on apprend une langue pour apprendre une langue pour là. OK, c'est une langue étrangère là, c'est la donne pour apprendre langue là. Donc ça veut dire que n'est pas aider du tout si je seulement fait l'anglais, si je seulement fait session yo en créole seulement. OK, il va pas aider du tout. Donc, il est préférable que nous fait, of course, il est bon des fois pour nous faire des entrées sorties juste capable d'aider un série de monde qui peut être des net, mais l'essentiel c'est que it's proven that it's not the best way to teach a foreign language. It's not to speak your native language, and trust me, the more you can hear the foreign language, the better it will be for you. Because one, it will build your listening skills, okay? Which is one of the hardest things to do, is to listen. When people speak, you can hear the words that they are saying, okay? It's not easy. That takes time also. But how you will learn, it's by keep hearing the language over and over again. You keep listening to songs that with that language over and over again, and then you start picking up words. Certain things start making sense to you. Okay? Alright, so that's what we're gonna do. Again, pas oublier que vous prenez très bonne décision pour parler anglais et pour améliorer l'anglais pour mon cas vivre ici, parce que dans quantité à billion de monde qui prennent décision pour parler en deuxième langue, c'est anglais que vous choisissez. Il y a environ 80%. OK? Donc la montée de jouant. Ça veut dire que, ou même ou non, bon, certainement sont des décisions très économiques, tout, mais ou même tout ou non compétition comparativement à mon salaire. Alright, so keep on learning, keep sharing, and of course like the videos, and yeah, let's do it. We'll see you next time. Thank you.